When I first encountered the concept of power plays, I thought it sounded aggressive. But as I learned, it's not about manipulation, it's about making bold moves that shift the game in your favor. Bet David emphasizes that power plays aren't about being aggressive, but about positioning yourself at the right moment to create opportunities. It's about knowing when to act, when to step up, and how to strategically influence the outcome. By mastering power plays, you take control of the situation, even in high-stakes moments. It's about leveraging your influence, making decisive moves, and creating lasting impact. Master this, and you'll shift the entire game in your favor. Keep watching, because the best is yet to come. Move 1. Master knowing yourself. I remember a time when I was making decisions without fully understanding what I truly wanted. It was like playing a game without knowing the rules. I would say yes to opportunities that seemed appealing on the surface, but deep down, I always felt disconnected, like I wasn't heading in the right direction. Whether it was choosing a job, a project, or how I spent my free time, I was moving through life without the clarity I needed. It wasn't until I took a step back and really started asking myself the tough questions that I realized how much of my life had been shaped by external expectations and not my own values. The turning point came when I finally acknowledged that the choices I had made weren't in alignment with who I was or what I truly wanted. It was a wake-up call, but it was also the beginning of understanding that in order to make better decisions, I had to first understand myself. Patrick Bet-David stresses that before making any significant moves in life or business, you must start with the most important foundation, knowing who you are. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most overlooked aspects of success. This doesn't just mean knowing your likes and dislikes. It's about understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your passions, your fears, and your core values. When you truly understand these things, you have a map to guide you through the chaos of decisions and external pressures that life throws at you. In the book Your Next 5 Moves, Bet-David emphasizes that self-awareness is the starting point of every successful venture. Without knowing yourself, how can you possibly make decisions that align with your purpose and long-term goals? For example, think about how many of us go through life prioritizing others' opinions over our own intuition. In the workplace, you might take on a project because it seems like the right thing to do, or because someone you respect told you it would be a great opportunity, but deep down, you know it's not something you truly want to pursue. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of other people's expectations, but when you're clear about who you are, those outside voices lose their power. You stop running on autopilot and start taking control of your own life. It's like the difference between driving with a GPS that knows exactly where you're headed versus following a random map with no clear destination. This self-awareness Bet-David talks about is more than just an introspective activity, it's about setting the foundation for your decisions. When you know yourself, you don't waste time on things that don't align with your purpose. Time becomes a valuable asset, and how you spend it becomes a reflection of your priorities. The minute you start being intentional about where your energy goes, your productivity skyrockets. But here's the catch. It's not enough to just know who you are. You must be honest with yourself. You can't keep lying to yourself about what truly excites you or where you should focus your efforts. Many people waste years procrastinating on their true ambitions because they're too busy listening to everyone else's advice or trying to fit into roles they don't belong in. Let's talk about procrastination for a moment. One of the main reasons people procrastinate is because they haven't fully figured out what they want. When you're unsure about your values or what's truly important to you, it's easy to get stuck. You delay taking action because you don't know which direction to go in. Think about a time when you found yourself scrolling mindlessly through your phone or getting lost in tasks that don't really move the needle. That's a form of procrastination that stems from a lack of clarity. You might think you're avoiding hard work, but in reality, you're avoiding the tough questions that would help you define your path. Take this example. If you're unsure about your strengths, how can you build a career or a business that utilizes them? If you don't know what energizes you, how can you structure your day to maximize your productivity? Knowing yourself isn't just a feel-good concept, it's an actionable, practical tool that allows you to take control of your time and your future. When I started to apply this principle, I began to notice that I wasn't wasting my time anymore on things that didn't matter. I was clear about what I was good at and where I wanted to go, so every move I made was more intentional and purposeful. Bet-David also talks about the importance of understanding your weaknesses. We often hear advice about doubling down on our strengths, but the truth is, you can't avoid your weaknesses forever. By acknowledging them and working on them, you can build a more balanced and resilient foundation for your life. But more importantly, it allows you to build a team around you that compensates for those areas where you might fall short. This is where knowing yourself goes beyond just introspection. It's about building a strategy that aligns with your strengths and compensates for your weaknesses. I'll give you a personal story. When I first started working in a leadership role, I thought I had to be good at everything. I wanted to be the one who had all the answers and could do everything myself. But soon enough, I realized that I was spending way too much time on things that weren't in my wheelhouse. I wasn't delegating effectively, and I wasn't leading with the strengths I had. Once I recognized that I could rely on my team for the areas I wasn't strong in, I started seeing real progress. It wasn't about doing everything. It was about doing what I was best at and building a team that complemented my abilities. When you make the decision to master knowing yourself, it's not a one-time activity, it's a continuous process. You must make a habit of checking in with yourself, reassessing your goals, and recalibrating your plans. Self-awareness is like a muscle. The more you work on it, the stronger it becomes. And as your self-awareness grows, so does your ability to make better decisions and avoid the distractions that slow you down. A powerful way to start mastering yourself is by creating a personal mission statement. This is a statement of your values, your purpose, and what you stand for. It's a guiding principle that helps you stay on track when life gets complicated or when you're faced with difficult decisions. Write it down, and refer to it whenever you're feeling lost or unsure. Ask yourself if the decisions you're making are aligned with your mission. If they're not, it's time to realign. Remember, the most successful people aren't necessarily the ones with the best resources or the most opportunities. They're the ones who know exactly who they are and can make decisions that align with their true self. Ultimately, mastering the ability to know yourself is the key to mastering time management and overcoming procrastination. When you understand your purpose and what you're truly capable of, you stop wasting time on distractions. You make better choices, align your actions with your values, and live a life that's more focused and fulfilling. It's not just about managing your time, it's about managing your energy, your priorities, and your future. Once you truly know who you are, every move you make becomes a reflection of that clarity, and the path forward becomes much more clear. This is where the power lies. When you take control of your self-awareness, you take control of your time and your decisions. And when you do that, you're on your way to truly mastering your next 5 moves. Move 2. Master the ability to reason. There was a time when I made quick decisions based on emotions or surface-level reasoning. It's easy to fall into this trap when you're in a rush or feeling overwhelmed. You make a snap decision because it feels right in the moment, but later, you realize you didn't fully think it through. I remember choosing projects and opportunities that seemed promising but quickly found myself stuck in situations that didn't align with my long-term goals. It was frustrating because I knew I was capable of more, but I hadn't paused to reason deeply before jumping into things. I thought I could trust my gut, but I learned the hard way that intuition isn't always enough when it comes to making decisions that shape your future. After reading Patrick Bet-David's Your Next 5 Moves, I realized that great leaders don't make decisions based on feelings alone. They think deeply, they reason with clarity, and they look at both short-term and long-term consequences before taking action. It's not just about knowing what you want in the moment, but understanding how that decision will impact you over time. For example, a decision might seem like a good idea right now, but if you pause and reason through it, you might realize that the immediate benefits aren't worth the potential risks in the future. I found that by taking the time to reason through decisions, I was able to avoid many of the pitfalls that I had previously fallen into. Bet-David stresses the importance of rational thinking. He emphasizes that the ability to reason is crucial not just for major life decisions, but for the daily choices we make. It's not enough to have a gut feeling or a sense of urgency, you need to step back and consider all factors. The key takeaway here is that the best leaders are the ones who are able to break down complex situations and weigh the pros and cons before moving forward. The decisions we make are connected to the trajectory of our lives, and if we act impulsively, we can derail the trajectory without even realizing it. That's why reasoning, thinking things through logically, is such a critical skill. It's about seeing the broader picture and understanding how a single decision will ripple out over time. Being able to reason through complex situations allows you to make decisions with confidence. When you reason logically and methodically, you can trust that your decisions are backed by a solid understanding of the potential outcomes. This kind of clarity is invaluable when it comes to time management and productivity. When you approach your decisions with logic, you can move forward without second-guessing yourself. You don't waste time fretting over what-ifs or regretting actions that were based on emotion. Instead, you make moves with conviction, knowing that each one brings you closer to your goals. Consider this: when you're in a rush or feeling under pressure, it's easy to make decisions that don't align with your long-term strategy. Maybe you accept a project or task that seems urgent but ultimately distracts you from what matters most. Maybe you push aside your personal goals because something feels more pressing in the moment. These decisions are often based on a mix of emotions and surface-level reasoning. But when you master the ability to reason deeply, you can see beyond the urgency of the moment. You're able to evaluate whether the task at hand aligns with your bigger picture. In the long run, this kind of thinking helps you prioritize effectively, manage your time better, and be more productive. I'll share a personal example. Early in my career, I often found myself overwhelmed with the constant stream of tasks and demands. I would say yes to everything because I felt like I had to, and I thought that responding quickly would show that I was reliable and dedicated. But I soon realized that not all tasks were equally important. By saying yes to everything, I was spreading myself too thin, and I wasn't giving my best effort to the things that truly mattered. It wasn't until I started applying a more logical approach, thinking through each decision, considering the short-term and long-term effects, that I began to feel more in control. I started asking myself, does this task align with my larger goals? Will this move me closer to where I want to be in the future? This shift in thinking helped me stop wasting time on things that weren't serving me and allowed me to focus on what truly mattered. Being able to reason through complex situations also helps you build better strategies for success. When you're able to break down a problem, identify the root causes, and evaluate potential solutions logically, you make better choices that are aligned with your values and vision. Rational thinking isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about seizing opportunities. If you can evaluate a situation from every angle, you can spot potential pitfalls and avoid them before they happen. You can also recognize opportunities that others might overlook because they're too focused on immediate, surface-level results. Let's talk about procrastination for a moment. It's often linked to a lack of clarity or indecision. When you're unsure of the consequences of your actions or feel overwhelmed by the complexity of a situation, it's easy to put things off. But when you have the ability to reason clearly, you reduce the mental noise that leads to procrastination. You see the situation for what it is and understand that action, thoughtful, reasoned action, is the best way forward. And the more you reason through decisions, the more confident you become in your ability to take meaningful steps toward your goals. One of the ways I learned to master reasoning was by developing a habit of questioning my assumptions. Before making a decision, I now ask myself, what are the facts? What is my gut telling me? What are the potential outcomes? This practice has helped me avoid the common pitfall of jumping into decisions without fully understanding the bigger picture. It's easy to get carried away by emotions, by urgency, or by what others are doing, but when you slow down and reason through the situation, you come to decisions that are more aligned with your true goals. Bet David emphasizes that rational thinking also requires emotional control. In moments of stress or pressure, emotions can cloud our judgment. We might make decisions based on fear or frustration, or we might rush into things just to relieve the discomfort of uncertainty. But great leaders are able to detach themselves from these emotions and reason from a place of calm. Emotional control allows you to think clearly, without being driven by fleeting feelings. By mastering this skill, you gain the ability to navigate even the most challenging situations with logic and clarity. You no longer make decisions based on a momentary emotional impulse. Instead, you base your decisions on thoughtful analysis and consideration. The ability to reason also goes hand in hand with time management. When you reason through a situation, you can assess the amount of time and resources that a decision will require. You can break down tasks into manageable steps and prioritize them based on their impact. This is especially important when managing long-term projects or goals. By reasoning through your options, you're not just making quick fixes, you're creating a plan that will help you stay on track and move efficiently toward your desired outcome. Another key point Bet David brings up is the importance of thinking in terms of both short-term and long-term consequences. We often get caught up in the short-term rewards of a decision, but great leaders think about the ripple effect that decision will have over time. They ask themselves how their actions today will impact their future and make decisions with the long game in mind. By reasoning through both the immediate effects and the future implications of a choice, you avoid making decisions that might feel good now but will cause problems later. This kind of strategic thinking is essential for mastering time management and achieving long-term success. Mastering the ability to reason isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about making better decisions that bring you closer to your goals. When you think deeply and consider all angles, you move forward with confidence, knowing that your actions are aligned with your vision. You stop wasting time on decisions that lead you in circles or away from your true purpose. Instead, you make moves that are deliberate, thoughtful, and ultimately lead you toward the success you're striving for. When you can reason through complex situations, you master not just your decision-making process, but also your time, your focus, and your future. Move 3. Master building the right team. In the early days of my career, I tried to do everything myself. I had this belief that if I worked harder and longer than everyone else, I could make it. I thought I could juggle all the tasks, make all the decisions, and carry all the weight without needing help from anyone else. But as time went on, I began to realize that this approach was unsustainable. I was burning out, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of responsibility, and constantly feeling like I wasn't moving forward fast enough. It wasn't until I read Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David that I fully understood what was missing. As Bet-David points out, success is not a solo mission, it's a team effort. In fact, building the right team is one of the most crucial steps in scaling your success. Bet-David stresses the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. He makes it clear that the right team can elevate your vision to heights you couldn't achieve alone. But equally, the wrong team can hold you back, drain your energy, and even sabotage your progress. It's not just about having people around you for the sake of it, it's about having the right people who bring value, expertise, and support to the table. I learned this the hard way. In the early stages, I often chose people based on familiarity or convenience, not based on how they could contribute to the bigger picture. But as my business grew, I quickly saw how having the wrong people around me slowed everything down. There was always friction, and progress felt like it was moving in slow motion. I wasn't progressing as quickly as I knew I could, and I was left wondering why it felt like I was doing everything by myself again. The lesson was clear: a great team is a force multiplier. Building the right team isn't about simply hiring people with skills. It's about creating a network of individuals who complement your strengths and fill in the gaps of your weaknesses. It's about making sure that the team you build can handle the areas you're not as strong in, freeing you up to focus on the things you do best. As Bet-David puts it, successful leaders know that their success is deeply tied to the team they build. Think about it, no matter how skilled you are, no one can do everything on their own. We all have our areas of expertise, but we all have blind spots too. By assembling a team that brings different strengths to the table, you're able to cover all areas and move forward more effectively. When I started to build my own team, I took a step back and evaluated what each person could bring to the table. I asked myself, what do I need to grow and scale faster? I realized that I needed people who could complement my skills, not just people who were similar to me. I needed individuals who could handle the technical side of things while I focused on strategy and vision. I needed people who could manage day-to-day tasks while I worked on building relationships and expanding our network. I also needed people who could challenge me when necessary, pointing out flaws in my thinking or pushing me to consider other perspectives. This was a game changer. When you surround yourself with people who can contribute in ways you can't, it allows you to work smarter, not harder. It's about leveraging your team to achieve what you can't do on your own. The right team doesn't just lift the load, they also elevate your thinking. They bring fresh ideas, new perspectives, and a variety of skill sets that challenge you to think differently. I used to spend a lot of time in isolation, trying to come up with ideas and solutions on my own. But as I began to build my team, I realized the value of collaboration. When you have a group of like-minded people who are all invested in the same goal, the creativity and innovation that comes from that collective thinking is powerful. The best ideas are often the result of people coming together, each contributing their unique knowledge and expertise. But it's not just about having the right people on your team, it's about building the right environment for them to thrive. A team is only as strong as the culture it operates in. As a leader, you must foster an environment of trust, transparency, and mutual respect. The team should feel safe to express their ideas and opinions, knowing that their contributions are valued. You also have to ensure that everyone is aligned with the same vision and values. Without this alignment, even the most skilled individuals can work at cross purposes, which can lead to confusion, miscommunication, and ultimately, failure. This is why it's essential to have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish and to communicate that vision to your team in a way that inspires them to give their best. Bet David also emphasizes that great leaders don't just focus on the people they hire, they focus on developing their team members too. Once you've assembled the right team, it's your job to help them grow and reach their full potential. This means providing opportunities for learning and development, encouraging them to take on new challenges, and giving them the support they need to succeed. A great leader is someone who invests in their people, recognizing that when they help their team grow, the entire organization grows. As I built my team, I realized that time management became much easier. Having a strong, reliable team meant that I could delegate tasks more effectively, freeing up my time to focus on the things that truly required my attention. Time management is not just about organizing your own day, it's about organizing the efforts of everyone in your team. By delegating the right tasks to the right people, you can ensure that each member is operating at their highest level of productivity. This creates a sense of flow, where everyone is working together toward a common goal, rather than scrambling to keep up with scattered tasks. The more I invested in building the right team, the more productive and focused I became. Another key lesson I learned in building my team was that it's important to be patient. Finding the right people is not always a quick process. It takes time to identify individuals who align with your values, work ethic, and vision. It's easy to rush this process, especially when you're eager to expand, but taking the time to build a team that truly complements your goals is essential. Sometimes, it's better to stay lean and work with a smaller, highly skilled team than to rush into bringing in people who aren't the right fit. Bet David also discusses the importance of having people who are committed to your vision, even when things get tough. A great team is one that sticks together through challenges, helps each other through difficult times, and remains focused on the end goal. When times get hard, that's when the strength of your team really shows. The best teams are those that support one another, trust each other, and push each other to be better. In terms of productivity, having the right team also means that you're no longer bogged down by tasks that aren't your strength. This allows you to manage your time better because you're no longer caught up in trying to do everything yourself. Instead, you can focus on the tasks that will move you closer to your goals and trust that your team has the rest covered. This leads to better time management, greater focus, and a more efficient approach to reaching your targets. At the end of the day, building the right team isn't just about filling positions, it's about creating a network of individuals who will help you move faster and further than you could ever go alone. It's about finding people who complement your strengths, fill in your gaps, and push you to be better. As Patrick Bet-David so clearly articulates, success is not just about individual effort, it's about mastering the art of building and leading a team that shares your vision and helps you achieve your goals. Move 4. Master strategy to scale. I used to believe that growth was purely about working harder. The more hours I put in, the more I thought I could achieve. Every day, I would grind away, pushing myself to exhaustion, thinking that eventually, my efforts would lead to the success I desired. But as I dove deeper into Patrick Bet-David's approach in Your Next 5 Moves, I realized I had it all wrong. Growth isn't about working harder, it's about scaling your efforts strategically. I learned that in order to truly grow, you need to focus on maximizing impact, not just effort. It's about stepping back, thinking bigger, and understanding that scaling involves positioning yourself in a way that creates exponential growth. The journey to scaling isn't a linear path, it's about multiplying your resources and influence by thinking strategically at every step. Bet-David emphasizes the importance of scaling not just by increasing effort, but by scaling impact. For too long, I believed that if I just doubled down on my work ethic and put in more hours, I would achieve the success I was looking for. But the truth is, working harder isn't a sustainable long-term strategy. Scaling is about expanding in a way that allows your efforts to have a larger and more meaningful impact. The idea is to create leverage, which allows you to achieve more with less effort. Instead of relying on sheer willpower, scaling is about smart planning and execution. I realized that if I wanted to move beyond a plateau, I had to change my mindset from grinding endlessly to thinking about how to position myself for exponential growth. One of the biggest shifts in my thinking came when I understood that scaling isn't simply about doing more of what you're already doing. It's about doing the right things in a way that amplifies your efforts. Bet-David talks about the importance of thinking bigger and positioning yourself for expansion. If you keep your vision small and limited, your growth will reflect that. Scaling requires a mindset shift from focusing on the here and now to preparing for the future. It's about anticipating where you want to be and then creating a roadmap to get there, no matter how many steps it may take. That means planning for your future needs, whether it's more team members, better systems, or expanded resources, and positioning yourself ahead of time to make sure you can handle that growth when it comes. One of the things Bet David stresses is the idea of being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to scaling. A lot of entrepreneurs fall into the trap of only reacting to the immediate demands of their business. But in order to scale, you have to be forward-thinking. You need to start laying the groundwork for future growth before you actually need it. That means developing systems and structures that can handle an increase in demand or activity. It's about creating processes that are repeatable, scalable, and efficient. When I was first starting out, I would often make decisions on the fly, scrambling to keep up with the pace of my work. But as I began to implement the principles Bet David outlines, I realized that I needed to step back and create a clear strategy for how to handle growth before it even happened. Bet David also explains that part of scaling is knowing when to delegate and trust others to take on key responsibilities. For me, this was a huge hurdle. Like many entrepreneurs, I thought I could do it all, especially in the early days. But as I began to scale, I realized that I couldn't possibly handle everything on my own. The more I tried to do, the less effective I became, and the harder it was to keep everything moving forward. One of the key lessons I learned was that in order to scale, you need to put the right people in the right positions and give them the trust and autonomy to succeed. By letting go of tasks that weren't within my core competencies and empowering others to take on critical roles, I could free up my time to focus on strategic growth. Scaling means understanding that it's no longer just about you, it's about your team, your systems, and how effectively you can leverage them. Scaling also requires having the right systems in place to handle the increased workload that comes with growth. Whether it's automating certain processes or implementing new technology to streamline operations, systems are critical for scaling effectively. When I first started, I was doing everything manually. I had no systems in place, and as the business grew, everything became harder to manage. I found myself spending more and more time on tasks that didn't move the needle. But once I started implementing more efficient systems, my ability to scale improved significantly. Bet David emphasizes that having systems that can handle increased demand is one of the cornerstones of scaling successfully. These systems should be scalable, adaptable, and designed with future growth in mind. For instance, one of the first things I did when I started scaling was invest in automation tools to handle routine tasks. This allowed me to focus on the high-leverage activities that required my attention, like refining strategy and building relationships. I also began to implement a clearer structure for how tasks were assigned within the team, which made everyone more accountable and allowed us to move faster. It wasn't just about doing more, it was about doing more with the right tools and support in place. Once I started scaling my efforts with the right systems, it felt like everything clicked into place. I wasn't working harder, I was working smarter, and the results spoke for themselves. Another crucial element in scaling is understanding that your current resources, time, people, money, may not be enough to handle the demands of growth. This was something I had to come to terms with early on. As much as I wanted to scale, I didn't have the resources to do it effectively. Bet David stresses that scaling requires preparing for the next level, even if you're not there yet. If you want to expand, you need to plan for the resources you'll need before you actually need them. That means thinking about your budget, your workforce, and your infrastructure. It also means making strategic investments that will allow you to handle that growth smoothly, whether it's in hiring, technology, or other operational costs. One of the key steps in scaling is to always be looking ahead, preparing for the challenges and opportunities that will come with growth. This includes financial planning, but also preparing your mindset. Scaling isn't just about resources, it's about being ready for the increased complexity that comes with expansion. The challenges you face when you're scaling are different from the challenges you face when you're starting out. You'll face bigger decisions, higher stakes, and more moving parts. Bet David highlights the importance of being mentally prepared to handle these challenges. Scaling is as much about growth mindset as it is about tactical execution. Bet David also talks about how scaling requires thinking strategically about expansion. This could mean expanding into new markets, launching new products or services, or leveraging partnerships to broaden your reach. Scaling involves taking calculated risks that, if executed correctly, can accelerate your growth. I've always been a big believer in playing it safe, but scaling has taught me that calculated risks are necessary for exponential growth. You can't just stay in your comfort zone and expect things to change. To scale, you have to push boundaries and take on bigger challenges, knowing that with the right strategy, the rewards will outweigh the risks. In terms of time management, scaling requires a shift in how you allocate your time and resources. You need to prioritize the most impactful activities and let go of tasks that don't align with your growth strategy. Time becomes an even more precious resource as you scale, and you need to manage it effectively. This means delegating tasks, setting clear priorities, and focusing on long-term goals rather than getting bogged down by day-to-day minutiae. Ultimately, mastering the strategy to scale is about being proactive, thinking big, and preparing for growth before it happens. Scaling is not a one-size-fits-all process. It's about finding the right approach that fits your vision, resources, and goals. As Bet David advises, the key to successful scaling is to think strategically, plan ahead, and create systems that can handle growth smoothly. By doing so, you position yourself for exponential success rather than relying on the limited scope of your current efforts. Move 5. Master Power Plays. When I first encountered the concept of power plays, I'll admit, I was skeptical. It sounded a little too aggressive, almost manipulative, something that wasn't in my nature. I thought it meant taking advantage of others, pulling strings behind the scenes, or making moves that were more about control than strategy. But as I delved deeper into Patrick Bet-David's teachings in Your Next 5 Moves, I quickly realized I had misunderstood the concept. Power plays aren't about manipulation, they're about making bold moves that shift the game in your favor, creating opportunities that allow you to take control of a situation when it matters most. The key is timing and positioning. It's not about stepping on others to get ahead, but about positioning yourself and your decisions in such a way that you create moments where you control the outcome, even in high-stakes situations. Bet David explains that power plays are about recognizing and seizing opportunities when they present themselves. They're not random, spur-of-the-moment decisions. Rather, they're strategic moves that are calculated and well-timed. One of the most important lessons I learned from Bet David's perspective on power plays is that they aren't just about being aggressive or taking risks. They're about knowing when to act decisively and when to hold back. In my own journey, I used to wait for the perfect moment to make a big decision, thinking that the right time would come to me. But I learned that a power play is about creating that perfect moment through strategy and vision. The right opportunity is not always obvious, but if you've mastered your self-awareness, reasoning, and team building, you'll start seeing the patterns that lead to those game-changing moments. The power play, at its core, is about maximizing your influence and impact at critical moments. Bet David teaches that we all have opportunities to create these moments, but they require a mindset shift. It's not about waiting for permission or playing it safe. It's about looking for ways to place yourself in a position where your actions or decisions have an outsized impact on the outcome. For example, in my career, there were countless times I had to make choices that involved risks, but I didn't see them as risks anymore once I started thinking about them strategically. I began to see them as opportunities to demonstrate my leadership, to make bold moves that would ultimately move me closer to my goals. These were the moments when I had the chance to exert my influence, control the narrative, and shift things in my favor. When you can master the art of power plays, you'll find that the game changes. Bet David encourages us to think beyond just the immediate decision at hand and to look for ways to position ourselves in the long term. A power play isn't just about winning today, it's about setting yourself up to win tomorrow, next year, and beyond. There are moments in life and business where a single decision can have ripple effects far beyond what you initially anticipate. By positioning yourself to take bold actions at these key moments, you can leverage those opportunities for long-term gains. I found that in my own business, there were times when I was hesitant to make a move because I was concerned about the immediate consequences. But when I thought about the larger picture and how that move could change the game, I realized the long-term benefits outweighed the short-term fears. One of the most crucial aspects of mastering power plays is timing. Bet David emphasizes that seizing the right opportunities at the right time is what separates those who succeed from those who miss out. There's a saying in business that timing is everything, and I've come to understand just how true that is. The difference between a good move and a game-changing move often comes down to when you decide to act. In my experience, there were opportunities one missed because I was either too early or too late in pulling the trigger. But as I started to hone my ability to identify when the time was right, I began to see results that were far more impactful. A power play doesn't just happen by chance, it's a decision you make after careful thought and with the confidence to take action. It's about being aware of the situation, understanding your goals, and knowing when to make the move that will shift the entire dynamic in your favor. In many high-stakes situations, mastering power plays means learning how to control the narrative. A key takeaway from Bet David is the idea of positioning yourself to influence how things unfold, even when the stakes are high. This is particularly useful when dealing with challenges or when competing for opportunities. I've faced situations where the odds were stacked against me, and I had to act quickly to change the game. At those moments, I wasn't thinking about the potential risks, I was thinking about how I could use the circumstances to my advantage. By understanding the power dynamics in play, I could make decisions that didn't just keep me in the game but positioned me as a leader. Power plays are about being able to see the situation for what it is, understanding what's at stake, and knowing how to leverage your actions to get what you want. Mastering power plays also involves understanding how to make others work with you. It's about building influence, and influence is one of the most powerful tools you can wield when it comes to making bold decisions. Bet David talks about the importance of understanding power dynamics and how to work within them. Whether you're negotiating with a client, building partnerships, or leading a team, understanding how to influence the people around you will amplify the impact of your power plays. In my own experiences, I've had to make decisions that required me to align with others, whether it was a key partner, a customer, or a team member. A successful power play doesn't just move you forward, it often moves others with you, creating a wave of progress that benefits everyone involved. In order to master power plays, you need to be able to make decisions quickly and confidently, especially in high-pressure situations. The ability to make bold decisions in the face of uncertainty is one of the hallmarks of a strong leader. There were moments in my own career where I had to make decisions with limited information, knowing that the outcome could dramatically affect the trajectory of my business. At those times, I would remind myself that the key to a power play is not perfection, it's decisiveness. Bet David's approach teaches that the act of making a decision, even if it's imperfect, often carries more weight than waiting for the perfect moment that may never come. By embracing that mindset, I began to make decisions with more conviction, knowing that each move was part of a larger strategy. Another lesson that resonated with me is the importance of resilience in executing power plays. Not every bold move will work out as planned, and failure is inevitable at some point. But it's how you recover from setbacks that determines whether your power plays are successful in the long run. I've made decisions that didn't turn out the way I hoped, and there were times when things didn't go according to plan. However, I've learned that failure isn't the end, it's just part of the process. Bet David emphasizes the need to bounce back from mistakes and continue to execute strategic moves. The ability to recover quickly, learn from your failures, and keep pushing forward is one of the most important traits of successful leaders. Ultimately, mastering power plays is about positioning yourself to make decisive moves that create a lasting impact. It's about recognizing key moments, thinking strategically, and acting with confidence. By learning how to identify opportunities, understand power dynamics, and seize the right moments, you'll find that you can shift the game in your favor. The more you practice this mindset, the more you'll realize that power plays are not about aggression, they're about control, strategy, and influence. When you master this, you'll be able to take your leadership and impact to the next level, regardless of the challenges you face.